That's really great.
It really is funny.
Okay, added it to the list.
Huh?
I added it to my
Yeah,
very long list.
it's fun to go. I think it's Friday, Saturday nights. And my wife said, I don't know, but we were there in the end of October, November, and it was cold. So
Okay.
it wasn't as much as it was in the summer.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
spring year, but it was fun. I like watching it.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
The restaurants that I like, it's probably hard to
Well, it
explain.
makes it more challenging too, I realize.
There's a place we go to.
They're in school.
It's really good.
My niece and nephew are both doing school stuff.
Looks like a New York City restaurant, more of a bar restaurant, but it's really, really good.
Kindergarten, so.
French cooking, cassoulet.
I mean, I'm forcing
Like lamb,
Adeline, who's
cooked overnight for
a
24
maniac.
hours.
Oh, wow.
It's really reasonable.
Oh, that's the one that you went up
We bought cassoulet, and that's all you need. And 2 glasses.
Yeah, they were all in
I got it for under €60.
That's pretty good.
So
Her biggest thing is getting everybody
That's
to
a
draw
reasonable
pictures
price,
of
Yeah,
the cats.
yeah.
So that was really good.
I want you to draw me a very tiny
I have
cat.
so many places
All
listed,
this
and
kitty cat.
we have
Big kitty, everyone's got to draw
a fair amount already
Kitty cat.
scheduled.
You got
Yeah.
Kitty cat.
Well enough, not like,
Lots of kitties.
I haven't been there that much.
You
That's
were
what I
lucky enough
tried
to
to
spend
do.
three times per month.
tried
So,
kitty cats.
yeah, it's been nice.
Well, that's her favorite. She's
No.
We're gonna take a day trip over out to Champaign.
And then Waverly,
Yeah,
on her
that's
little,
good.
you know, the parents do these little boards now, like,
Yeah.
Waverly, age 7, starting kindergarten.
The last time we wanted to travel somewhere,
And what she wants to be when
French
she grows up,
Rails,
she's
when
like
they're normal
cat
straight
doctor.
time. You didn't know
I've
that
been there,
day
you
till you
know,
got
and
there,
I got
whether they're gonna run trains that day or
Oh,
not,
wow.
so we just said that a little bit.
Cat doctor.
Cause we're gonna go down to different places, but it just wasn't worth it. I've walked inside of a couple of museums already, just ready to enter.
Here.
I know I'm flying over fast, so I have my fingers crossed.
Joel, blink the light if we're ready to go.
They do occasionally.
Sebastian does for the letter. And he's all set up downstairs. He'll turn the button. Oh, there we go. Yep, we're good.
We're good.
We're good. But my music,
I can't see like if there's anything there or anything. You wanna use my screen? I've got screen.
I think we'll be okay.
We'll be okay.
All right,
Okay.
all right.
Call to order.
We'll call us to order. Have roll call, please.
Marie-Claire Gorham.
Here.
John Krischer.
Here.
Susan Murphy.
Here.
Phil Pardo.
Here.
Mary Jo Williams.
Here.
Are all present, thank you.
All right. Let's have pledge of allegiance, please.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wait till she gets back here. Any public appearances? Anybody on Zoom?
No.
Okay, all right. All right. Okay. Any announcements from any board members? Anything going on?
No, we're gonna give, $30,000 to the library concerns when Joan gets back, so I assume that November. And, I made $192 at the market last week.
There you go.
We have it this week, so
Yeah.
hopefully we'll do better.
You're doing better than when you had the book sale,
We are,
because of the expense of the book sale.
yeah.
Yes, that's great. It really is. Anything else?
There was a beautiful laminating workshop, mostly focused on placemats at the Children's Library last night, and it was a huge success, totally filled to the rafters, which is shocking on a Tuesday. I mean, beginning of the school year still, and
great.
just absolutely packed.
Yeah, we're getting more and more children involved, aren't we? That's fantastic.
great.
It really is. All right, we'll move on then to, we'll approve the minutes for the July 24th regular meeting and the July 29th special meeting. Anybody have any adjustments to the minutes? Or can I have a motion to,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the July 24, 2024 regular meeting and the July 29, 2024 special meeting.
do I have a second for that?
I second it.
Okay. Could I have a roll call?
Marie Claire Gorham,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Phil Pardue,
Yes.
Mary Jo Williams,
Yes.
John Krischer.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
All right, let's receive the library's report for July and August.
So we are continuing our trend, our trajectory in terms of increasing hard copy circulation. You know, I love to go back and look at previous statistics. In particular, I want to note that for our last full year before the pandemic, 2019, our children's hard copy circulation for that fiscal year was at 28,885. And for the year 2024, for children's circulation, we were at 37,137. I believe this is in part to a lot of families moving to the area during the pandemic, but also revamped collection and new programs. So we're above and beyond where we were in terms of that. And then overall, 2019 as compared with 2024, we were at 120,621 items total for 2019 and 164,719 for 2024. And that includes even a little bit of a drop off in hoopla circulation when we capped that in March. So we're at 81% of where we were for hard copy circulation pre-pandemic. And then our e-circulation has quadrupled. So the library is well used across the board. And for July and August, you will see our typical uptick in circulation, especially in kids for summer reading, and then a drop off in August as summer reading comes to an end, but then also school starts again, car week, people are staying away, so those kinds of statistics drop off a little bit, but nothing else major of note, no major anomalies that came up in terms of program attendance dropping off or anything like that. We're on track with where we usually are, and again, seeing gentle increases everywhere. Any questions about our statistics?
I guess this is move on to the next item. All right, let's receive the treasurer's report for July and August and approve the check register. Mary Claire?
Okay, well, I'm excited. This is my first, so bear with me. But first off, I have to thank Mary Jo and Leslie for their hand-holding as I figured this out. And of course, Ashley. Always Ashley. But, well, yeah, so, and Mary Jo literally helped me put together this first one. So she's helping me have a frame of reference. But so I guess typically, since it's the first report of the year, there's not that many bills received and paid, and no distribution from the CPLF, et cetera. So it can be a bit misleading. The annual payment of MOBAC / PLP membership makes it look like the expense is over budget, but it's not. It's that tracking. And then I think that's just for the first one for July. And then we also put together August, and it's similar. So the distribution reads over budget, but it's not. It's just normal and the way we start out the year, which I'm grateful to be learning. So this is how we learn it, through osmosis. So thank you. Does anyone have any questions that I can be learning as I go as well, how to answer? But
No, it's a tough job once you learn it.
Yeah,
Once you get into it,
thank you.
the hardest thing, the first thing you do is you think, oh, wow, we're way over budget.
Right.
Until somebody explains to you that no.
That's how it looks.
It's a whole,
Yeah.
they take the whole year out and then
Yeah.
take it out so far, so as long as you're right on the end of the year, that's all that counts.
And it's massively edifying, so I actually appreciate the opportunity, because I'm
Yeah,
like, that's how you learn. That's, yeah.
You'll learn as you move on. It's
Yeah.
like, you learn what's going on.
Thank you. Yeah.
To me, was a great learning experience. I think, Mary Jo, you're the same thing, right?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
You
It
don't
was great.
understand till you really get there and
Yeah.
see what's going on.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to.
So we're going to go back to do the annual one? We skipped over.
Yeah, we'll go back and do the annual report out
Okay.
for June for
Okay.
overall. So these are just our basic check. I wanted to keep the check register and everything separate, and we'll go
But
back.
I mean, in the order of the package.
Yes, in the order of the packet. I wish I'd switched that up a little bit, but here we are.
Okay.
Thanks.
So we need to approve the check register?
Yeah,
Does
we'll
anybody
put a
have
check
any-
register,
Check registers for June, August, and June, July, and August.
June, July, and August.
All right. So anybody have any questions on them? No?
Some of them I looked at, but then I realized that Leslie keeps things pretty well straight. So every time I ask a question on something, she would explain it to me so she keeps a very good eye on it. So could have a motion to approve it?
So,
Okay. Have a second?
Second.
Yeah, second.
Okay, have a roll call on that?
Marie Claire Gorham.
Yes.
Susan Murphy.
yes.
Phil Pardue.
Yes.
Mary Jo Williams.
Yes.
John Krischer.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
Okay. We'll receive the monthly report for the Master Plan Ad Hoc Committee.
No.
Yeah,
Don't we have
that's,
to go back to the annual?
it's actually the fifth item.
Oh, you changed it around.
Yeah, I didn't change it around. This is kind of the normal order of things. It's just we're having the annual report out is anomaly, so I didn't rearrange everything. We just had our standard check register, librarian's report, everything in the normal order that
Oh,
they're
okay. I
in.
was just going down in the order of the attachments that you had.
There was something that went wrong with Novus after we published the packet, so if you're looking at it online, it might still be wonky. We reported everything. If you've got a
Okay,
print packet
just-
or if you looked at the attachment to
So
the
where do I
email,
need to be?
you need to be on the receive the monthly report out from the Master Plan Ad Hoc Committee.
You know, the logical order would have been to,
Yes, I understand that would have been the logical order.
Looks just-
Conversely, the logical order is always the order that we have it in, so yes. So monthly report out from the Master Plan Ad Hoc Committee. Since the last time we met, in July, there's nothing new major to report. We're in the middle of the request for proposals process. We had the mandatory walkthrough on August 28, and 23 firms participated. I responded to 59 questions from architects about the project and got those responses out. And as of right now, the deadline for the proposals is to be postmarked is Friday, October the 4th. So we are on track for everything. And I will make note, too, that Mary Jo and Marie Claire and I've met. We're having opening doors and conversations with various community groups in town about sharing spaces and looking at commercial options, but we have nothing major to report out at this point in time. We hope that we'll have something later this fall.
Do you have quite a few ideas out there? Is there different locations or anything look promising? That's my question.
Yeah, we've got 3 or 4 conversations that have started off positively. You know, I think the knee-jerk reaction is like, no, it's our space, and we need, space is a premium in Carmel-by-the-Sea. So I think we've talked to the Sunset Center and opened that conversation up with them to see if there's potential there, and a couple other groups. So we'll have a full report out.
So in October, we'll have a little bit more,
Yep.
hopefully.
I think we spent some time just thinking about options too,
Yeah.
right? You know, can we just replicate what we have in the
Right.
library, or do we have to consider other options?
Yeah.
And so I think that was a good exercise too, to try to think through,
Yeah.
you know, what different contingencies might we have if we can't get what we want.
Yeah, well,
So,
that's-
Yeah.
you know,
that's
so I think that was a good opportunity
And we're
to just
looking-
begin talking about that.
We're looking down the road, what, a year probably?
I would think so.
Yeah, at least a year. And so, yeah, we've got some time, and
Yeah.
we're in a good place.
All right,
But optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
just asking, because it's going to be quite a chore.
Yes.
It's not
yes.
going to be easy. And making sure we keep all the services and all that going.
Yeah, we came up between the three of us with some impressive matrices.
I'm sure you will do quite.
And which we will share with all of you.
You will do quite
So you can
well.
see our logic and reasoning.
I have no doubt that you'll
Yeah.
come back with a really good report. All right. Then we'll move on to receive the year budget report for the fiscal year of 2023-24.
So, for 23-24, things shaped up pretty well for us. For those of you who've been on the board for a longer spell of time, you know that we typically underspend our budget. We're very thrifty, we repurpose things, we find good deals. Sometimes we're short-staffed, so we don't get to initiatives that we'd planned, but we're generally, sometimes $10,000, $20,000 under budget. This year, I'm proud to say we were only $3,000 under budget, which is huge for us. Yay. And we did great things with the funds that we had. We anticipated originally $398,900 in revenue this year. However, with the budget adjustment from reserves in the amount of $5,000, which brought us to just over $402,000, and unanticipated revenue from interest income, we landed at $418,000 total for our revenue. Expenditures, we did go over budget. We were at $415,000, so we were over that $402,000, and I'll go into what those overages were and why later on in the staff report. So for our revenue sources this year, we did receive an increase in the amount of $50,000 from the Carmel Public Library Foundation, going from $291,000 to $341,000 for fiscal year 23-24, and that was to meet increasing costs across the board and increasing library usage. Those circulation statistics are going up, and we want to make sure that we have the ability to meet our community's needs in terms of ordering. And also increasing our programs. We went from a handful of adult programs at the main year to 1 or 2 a month now, and so funds to support that and pay our performers. I will note that for fiscal year 22-23, that was the last year that the Friends of the Library held their annual book sale, and nobody was quite sure what was going to happen with funds from the Friends of the Library. They pivoted and they turned the book room into a little bookstore, resale bookstore, in addition to the farmers market sales and the book cart at the main and the shelves in the park branch. And that first year, they were able to give us the disbursement of $25,000, so there was no loss of revenue there from the Friends at all. And I can't say enough how proud I am of that whole group for doing what they do, and it's hard work, and they're very passionate about it, and we're very fortunate. Interest income was, of course, watching the market, but the interest income did not come down for 23-24, and those interest rates continue to rise, which is good for us in terms of interest for LAIF. So we ended up with double what we had anticipated in that budget. So $22,000 additional dollars to spend, almost $23,000 additional dollars that came into the library for revenue. For library operations, we were under what I had anticipated. Estimating library operations can be challenging year over year. We have our annual disbursement from our Pacific Library Partnership. That's easy to estimate. It doesn't change very much, but this revenue source includes funds for lost books, so if not as many people lose books, we won't see any money coming in there. If there's any problems with the printers or copiers, which we've been up and down with over the last couple of years, that affects library operations. In addition to large weeding projects, we're always kind of doing gentle ongoing weeding, but if we tackle a bigger section of the collection, we try to send those out to Better World Books so the books can find a good home, and they thusly send us nominal sums for that, but that goes into library operations as well. So we were under about $2,500 for our library operations, which of course was offset by our interest income. We did also request a budget adjustment increase. This was in December of last year, December of 2023, to replace emergency response supplies, which we were overdue for, and to purchase battery solar operated generators so that the Park Branch could continue to operate as a community charging station during power outages. And then I'll talk about expenditures and some of the line items that happened in January. Those were just internal, no increases from reserves, as with emergency supplies. So on to, are any questions about our revenues?
Do you want me to save it to the end, or do you want me to start now? I think fundamentally, when you look at the packet, it's broken up into two areas. We have the summary here, but if you look back earlier in the packet is the actual breakdown for all the numbers.
Right.
As you go through, and it is a good news story at the end of the year, because we came in under, and we didn't come in by under as much as we usually did.
Right.
But we're over budget. The budget is $402,000. We came in over. We ended up being lucky because of the interest rates coming in as it went. But what it calls into question are the budget controls, fundamentally the budget controls that we have,
Right.
to make sure that we come in on budget. And so this is a great news story. But I think going forward, if we go back to where we're always underspending, we didn't have to worry about the budget controls too much because we were always under. So it was no big deal. But if this is the new trend where we're going to be bumping up against the budget, and they're for needed things,
Right.
and the foundation has been very good to us. We have reserves of our own that we can call back to, but we can't be falling into it at the end of the year. I mean, it needs to, and just to be lucky, it needs to be through the year for the budget controls, making sure we're there, and then making a decision to up the budget rather than at the end of the year coming in and saying, hey, this is great.
Right.
And that would be the only thing I would say on all this. So, I mean, this is a great news story. We're in, everything worked well, but, what were the unanticipated expenses? Was it all in, a lot of it was in the ebooks, which,
Right.
you could say, all right, that's 9,000 of it coming up. But there's another 3,000 coming up that, the budget controls just didn't work. I mean,
Right.
Or is there another thing, that ebook type of thing, where we need to look at now to make sure that in the future we don't let expenses get away from us?
Right.
So I view this as not a bad news story, but this is a warning.
Yes. Yes.
That's all I would say.
No, and I agree. We are going to, especially with that interest income, need to figure out as we go forward, are we, budget adjustments can be challenging when we're changing the numbers throughout the year.
Great.
Mid-year budget adjustment, great, but as we get to the end of the fiscal year and we have had this trend of underspending, I guess this will be a bigger conversation that I'd like to bring back to the board on, as you say, the budget controls.
Right.
When we get to the end of the fiscal year and we know we are going to have an extra $20,000 in interest income, are we going to spend it? Are we going to put it in reserves when we've been trying to spend the income that we have coming in? So that will be helpful for me as we...
Right. That's a great point, but I would also point out that it's not going to be $20,000 next year.
Not next year, no.
I hope not, but that's what we thought last year.
Well, what happened was the Federal Reserve kept the interest rates the same or increased the reserve overnight rate.
Right.
That's going back down, and so the expectation is it's going to push bond yields back down.
Yeah,
The
that's
price
true.
of the bonds going back up. So, if you're selling bonds, you're going to be in a better place, potentially, is the current thinking. But if you're depending on the interest income, you're moving and you're living on it, you're starting to move your assets other places to try to maintain a good return on investment. And so, whether it's another decision on is LAIF the right place to have the money to have it earn it, or it's certainly a safe place, it makes good sense. I mean, there are a lot of good reasons to keep it there, but if we keep it there, we can't depend on having such a large.
Right, right.
That's a lot of words just to say, hey, we can't depend on it in the future. Sorry.
No, no, no. And we've typically underestimated interest income in prior years. We've been on the safer side of things in terms of
Right.
those estimates.
In my tenure on the board, we've never been in a situation where they were cutting rates. They were always maintaining rates or increasing rates.
Right.
So this is since 2017, my tenure, I can't speak to anything before that in the LAIF. And I think we were newly into LAIF about that time anyway, just a few years before you moved in, or did you move?
No, we've had funds in LAIF since the early 80s.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But interest rates have never been, they haven't been like this since the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Going back and looking, so.
I mean, and so in a situation where you're not going to we've been the beneficiary of having more interest income than we expected coming in. Now we're entering a period where the anticipation is it's going to be less. It makes those budget controls. We can't depend on
Right.
that overage bailing us out next year.
Right, which I wouldn't do.
Right. And before we go ask the foundation for more money or
Right,
spend things,
right.
we need to have done due diligence.
Right.
Would it do us, I've talked to Ashley, I've talked to some financial people in town. Would it be prudent if we started talking to some very financially savvy investors in town? Some ideas of what we could do to put our money safely, but get maybe more of a guaranteed income.
Well, so I think if the board of trustees would like to, it'd be to tee up what the different options are,
Yeah.
what the risks are, because there's no guarantees, what the risks are, and the risks are both financial,
Right.
and there's also the risk of it going south and the community not being happy.
Yeah, well, that's,
So if you roll into a for-profit broker and it goes badly, that could end badly with the city and the residents of the city. So maybe the best answer is to stay with LAIF, but I think it's fundamentally maybe something we want to take a look at to weigh those, because we've never had that discussion.
just an idea, maybe just get somebody's idea.
Yeah, yeah.
And just say, we need something that's really, really secure, because it's the city's money, we can't be.
Well, it's the trust money,
Yeah.
and we want to be good managers of the
management.
trust.
So that's what the fund we're in now is probably the safest. But you never know until you ask somebody.
Exactly.
And then at least we would do our job.
Right.
To try to make it, because we're not gonna get that kind of interest rate next year. I think it's gonna be down probably, took it down a half, they're gonna take another half. So we're probably maybe 10,000 less in interest next year, in my thoughts, maybe
I'd
I'm
have to
wrong.
look at it,
I don't have a crystal ball, but just looking at my own stuff, I kind of, that's what I'm looking at.
Ashley, didn't we take that into account when you built the budget for this coming fiscal year?
Yes, I did. Yeah,
So we don't, we're not counting on that, so that's a
Right.
good thing.
right.
Yeah, we did up and down.
And I thought we also, there were some things that, like the equipment, that perhaps you wouldn't have purchased if we didn't have the additional funds. So I'm not sure that it was
Right, but to
operating
Phil's,
expenses that ran us over
To-
so much, but I'm
to-
just.
yeah, but to
just-
Phil's point, the budget mechanism, the better practice
Right.
would have been to come to the Board of Trustees and,
And confirm that or.
right,
discuss it.
in probably May, and say, we're anticipating being $20,000 over in interest income,
Yeah.
the overages in these line items is absorbed by, these underages here.
Yeah.
Can we overspend the $402,000 for these
Yeah.
purchases?
Yeah.
Right, or just request to. I wouldn't say can we,
Right.
because
Yeah.
at that point, we knew we could.
Right,
Right.
but
I mean,
request those things. That would have been a better,
The
yes.
point was that we didn't have, we had the money. We came in
Right.
3,000 under.
Right,
But the budget is the budget.
right.
Right. I'm just saying so I think to your point, we probably should have discussed it more,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
but it wasn't it was a deliberate spend, is I guess my point, knowing we had the
So
extra money.
the extra for the furniture and things like that, I think that's personally, I think that's a great use
Yeah.
with the money as you go forward.
Yeah.
What I'm worried about are the ebooks and things like that, where we
Right,
have these
understood, yeah.
expenses that just kind of keep on going and we don't
Right,
anticipate.
Right.
So if it comes to the end of the fiscal year and you have 3 days to spend the money, and there's no time for a special board meeting, and the treasurer and the president talk to the library director, that's a defensible thing to do,
Right.
at the end.
Yeah,
Because sometimes you just need to move
right,
to do the right thing.
Right.
yeah, that makes very good sense.
Makes sense.
But it's these unanticipated costs that we come up that we should have budgeted for and then we didn't, not the more opportunistic where, hey, we have this extra,
Right.
we need to go
Right.
do it now because it makes sense
Right,
that's a different question.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think on your point, though, I don't think anybody was really expecting the ebooks to go as sky high as it went. That was something that hit us completely. We weren't ready for it, and it just went explode. Now we know it's there, and we know we can make adjustments to that.
I will say, look, Ashley's been hearing me complain about this since 2017. so
Yes. The canary in the coal mine.
All right, so
I think I use that term.
Yes. So we did overspend in ebooks. So any other discussion, questions on this in terms of, the overspending and process and how we can tackle things in the future when and if this comes up, especially for estimating and anticipating interest income, which fluctuates year over year. Okay, so let's talk about these expenditures. We did mid-year budget adjustment in January, wherein we did augment the administration budget for that $5,000 for reserves. But the rest of the budget adjustments were within line items. So money came out of IT and went over to technical services, and we flipped funds around that way, knowing where we were going to overspend, and trying to bridge the gaps where we thought we would be overspending. For instance, in technical services, we were over a slight bit, and that's due to materials processing costs going over. So when we order things from Midwest Tape or Baker and Taylor, they process it. They put as many labels and everything on so that we save staff time and redirect it elsewhere. E-material spending was our biggest over budget area. Again, we put those caps on Hoopla. Hoopla was the biggest cause of our overspending. It just kept going up and up and up. Canopies remained pretty steady, as has our overdrive spending. And then, of course, Palaces is free to us unless we actively purchase materials, just like with overdrive. And we hadn't really gotten into that last fiscal year, so our biggest problem was Hoopla. And that's sunsetting in 5 days. And then the equipment budget did go over. That was some equipment furniture purchases that I authorized, knowing that we would have extra funds, and that's where the overage from equipment comes from. And we didn't make that adjustment during January because, I had no idea that we would be over quite so much until we got that third quarter report from Leif and saw where we were at. So again, we were over budget in our spending, $12,000, close to $13,000. In terms of our revenue, we were, and everything else under $3,000. Next year we'll work, or this year we'll work on, if we see additional interest income, working with the board to reallocate that within the budget if there's time, so that we can spend all the funds that we earn, but also that we are living within our means and staying within the budget adopted by the Board of Trustees.
And, John's suggestion of looking at alternatives to Leif, we want to just make a future agenda item for that. I mean, we have a lot of people out off and on for the, October and November, so maybe after the first of the year.
I think that'd be a good place to do
that's
that.
a good idea.
If we just put it in there and then.
And that will help us for budget planning, because we'll be starting, at least I mentally start budget stuff for both the library board and for the city in January.
It may be the past and current treasurer.
Yes.
Take a look at it. I mean, somebody has to, on the board, needs to take a look at it or something, but if you have recommendations, I mean, I don't know how
That's-
best to go about
Sounds
doing
really
that.
good, we could make for a January meeting,
Yeah.
Yeah.
put an agenda for January. One comment on the spending extra money for furniture this year. We had the extra interest this year, so we able to spend it. Next year, we might not have it.
Right.
So this year, with inflation, the things we did in the furniture things were good purchases, and we had the money. So
Right.
next year, we may not have the money.
Right.
So
Right, and I will
think
make
it
note
was-
that I did talk to both Mary Jo, and I think everybody knows this, I'm not just blindly, I talk a lot about what we're doing and why we're doing it,
Yeah.
so I did talk to Mary Jo and President Krisher a lot.
Yeah, just
About-
seemed to be the best thing to do this year.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, we might not be able to do it.
Right,
And we'll find out. Expenses are gonna go up,
right.
and when I look at overdrive and things, they're gonna go up. Because people are gonna move from what we took hoopla away, they're gonna go somewhere else. So it's gonna be a lot of, we'll talk about that the first year too, in January. We go adjustments.
Yeah, materials.
Susan, you have anything to say?
Not on this, no.
Anything else there? So
No?
we're good on this one, then we're gonna sort of finish this up, and in January, we will bring it back up again. All right?
Yes.
All right. Okay, let's consider a budget adjustment in the amount of $8,000 for strategic planning services from Visionary Strategic Consulting and appointment of a trustee to work with the library director and consultant on a new strategy planned.
So speaking of budget adjustments,
I was just gonna say, we're already talking about this already, but
we're a little early in the year, but we are overdue 2 years now with strategic planning. I'm down 2 full-time staff members. I keep trying to get us started. We started a survey, and I think that at this point in time, it's appropriate to bring somebody in who specializes in this to help guide us through a strategic planning process. And I looked around at different consultants. Bob Kramer had previously worked with the Carmel Public Library Foundation, actually, which is how I had gotten to know him. He's a very dynamic person. He and I had some preliminary conversations about what something would look like for us. And I feel confident that he will be a great person to guide us through a new strategic plan. And I will note that, despite the pandemic, we managed to achieve a lot of the things on our strategic plan. I think we were a year or 2 off in some of those date goals that we put in there, but we got a lot of great things done, and I'm looking forward to a new strategic plan. We want to build a core group to start the process of about 10 people representative of the community, to do some surveying, and then once we get kind of a draft done, to bring it here to the Library Board of Trustees, but also take it out to our community groups and say, does this, with all these differing opinions and thoughts put into this process, does this reflect what you want to see from the library, that you think the library should be? And so my goal would be to finish up a strategic planning process probably early next spring, so February, March of next year, and that can help us also guide the budget process as we go along. And I hope if there's any questions about this, I'm happy to answer them.
I do have a bunch of questions. First of all, do we really need this in that when we had the 2 meetings, nobody showed up, or very few people showed up? Number 2, who would be the 10 people that would be on it? And John and I have talked about this before the other day. And would it tell us anything?
Those are all really good questions, and I've been through a lot of strategic planning processes where staff have done them, or libraries have pulled in consultants to do them, and it varies, from the size of the plan being 40 pages long to ours, which was very simple and 3 or 4 pages long, and I felt more accessible. The meetings that we held in the springtime, those were community meetings, more specific to the building project. I think we are going to get more feedback. And I don't remember, Susan, when I did the last strategic plan, I actually talked to the Friends. So I went to groups that had meetings. So I went to the groups rather than, because sometimes community meetings can see low turnout. We can try that tactic again, but what I found to be more successful in the past is to kind of crash meetings that I know are happening and say, hey, could you agendize a little item so that I can do a presentation and we can talk about this, and found that to be successful, and I'd like to do that.
Because the other meetings were well publicized, but we didn't get, as you know, the first one was
Right.
canceled because we didn't have anybody.
Right.
And the second one, we had, 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, that's,
And 2 people just wandered in because it
Yeah,
was
well-
open.
Right. So we definitely will probably try a larger community meeting, probably at the library in the gathering place, but we'll go to groups and meet them where they are and their needs. And we have groups that are meeting regularly in the library. I mean, that doesn't seem like a far reach. As for the 10 people, I'm looking, starting to build a list. You know, it would be nice to have probably somebody who is formerly on council, a teacher, somebody who's a parent, you know, kind of cast the net wide, somebody who works here in town, you know, somebody in the service industry that may be using the library. What can we be doing better? So kind of a broad representative group would be what I'm looking at building, not just people I know that I personally know, but just who would be an asset to giving us a voice, giving us a perspective that we may not have had, and has thoughts. So if you think of anybody, I'm pulling together an A team for this project. And I would like to request with this staff report that the board appoint somebody from the trustees to work with me directly on this. It doesn't need to be, you know, two-person ad hoc committee necessarily, because the draft plan will come to the board of trustees to work on together. But any volunteers? I had been thinking of Mary Jo, because she's going to be incoming president probably. She's VP right now. To work on that with me, but I'll leave it to the board to discuss.
yeah, probably understand your fact on that. I think more this committee to get a outreach, we know which way we go. Right now, if we get the community members here, they can explain, they can give their ideas, and then we can follow them. Right now, the meeting we had before, everybody was happy with the library. Everybody I talked to in town said, we didn't want to come and complain because we love the library. There's nothing we want changed. So if we put a committee together, like she wants to do, we can have ideas to go to the community. And we can say, this is what we're planning on doing. The services, what services that people really want. They want more services for their children. That's going to come out. We're going to know that. We're going to probably hear a lot about e-books and hours.
Or things we never even thought of. I mean, that's the nice thing about going through these processes. Sometimes we get, you know, we'd like for you to put in a swimming pool. That was one of our suggestions from the teen lounge one year, went into the book. So we might not be able to do that, but could we partner with the Carmel Valley Pool and do certificates for summer reading? You know, there's always some way to think about things creatively. And so I love getting that type of thinking and those types of ideas, because it might not be an immediate yes, but it gets your brain percolating, and the library staff loves to think about new initiatives and new things.
Well, probably the Friends of the Library, and have somebody from the CPLF. And I like a next council member.
Yes, I've got a volunteer from the Friends already. Yes, so somebody that's not on.
serving in council now is better, you know.
Yeah.
In my aspect of that.
So I think it's a great idea, looking at the statement of work that he put in. Your idea of going to these different community functions is great, and that's probably the only way you're going to get consistent input.
Right.
That's not what it's in the statement of work. He talks about workshops every other Friday from a set time. And
That's the 10-person group meeting. So we start there
okay,
and go through.
So is he going to participate in these So then that kind of changes my question. Is he going to participate in these other meetings?
Yes.
And is that budgeted into his estimate?
Yes, all of
Okay.
that is budgeted in. We've gone through and talked about all these different ways. The core group starting off is the big way for us to get started with the draft so that we go out and do those meetings, but that's all budgeted
Right.
for.
Just as long as he's put that into his plan?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So you're expecting maybe April?
I would like it a little bit earlier than that,
Okay.
but I'm not going to push I'm not going, I like a timeline. I like to stick to a timeline. However, the strategic plan is going to drive our work for the next 2 to 3 years, and if we need additional time for it, I don't want to
We could.
push us. So
We could
like,
put tentatively the March,
I'd say March.
yeah, then,
And I would hope that we would have a draft ready for board review maybe in February, but for final strategic plan adoption, March, April.
okay, so we'll say
Yeah,
a draft February?
Yes.
Report back in February, and then a report in March.
yeah.
And if, in February, you'll be able to tell us whether you can make March or can't make March, and we'll have to push it back to April.
Yeah.
Does that sound good to everybody?
That sounds reasonable.
Are you all right with,
I'm okay with this, yes.
Yeah, you're-
Yes.
understand what you're gonna be the next 2 years, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be your, going on. Anybody else have any other comments on that? Mary Claire, do you have anything?
Did you
on
get all your questions answered, Susan?
Yeah, I think that
What did I miss?
the man is definitely more qualified. I just had questions about if anybody was gonna show up and if we
Well,
were,
I-
Yeah, we will.
John and I had talked about this.
I think this is gonna be
Yeah.
more that people are gonna volunteer for this.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna come because they've volunteered, made a commitment to this, to be.
Right.
So they're gonna be, it's not like a general public.
Yeah.
We've already had a commitment from the people
Yeah.
that they will be
Yeah.
here.
We're
to-
gonna get participation,
Yeah,
and we're
and
gonna,
that's-
yeah,
The community members will be asked by you, right, to participate?
absolutely, yes, yeah.
So,
And I've already started putting those kinds of
Mhm.
feelers out to see. I had talked to Mary Jo about it. I have a friend of the library, Catherine Gualtieri, who said that she would participate with us. So already seeing who's got the time and availability and the drive to participate in helping us with this. Because it will be, especially for that 10 labor intensive up front.
okay.
Frankly, I'm excited to hear what they all have
Yeah,
to
I'd
say.
like to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, I love strategic planning.
Mhm.
And this will be a big help, again, to provide me with support in this process and keep things on track so that we don't go another year with an out-of-date strategic plan.
Mary Claire, you have people in the community you know with kids.
Yeah.
That's,
Oh, I have.
I mean, that's what we gotta find,
Don't
because
you worry.
that's the future.
Yeah.
As Phil keeps telling me, the future's in the children's library.
I'm trying to sit on my
You know,
hands
that's-
about all the, there's
Yeah.
so many people who would be absolutely chomping at the bit to
Yeah,
get
to
to
get involved and say
Yes.
what we should be and not doing, so.
Yeah.
This is down the road, long-term.
Yeah,
We're looking to the future, and
as Marie
and then we
Claire.
have to actually bring in this too, if we get into this remodel, ideas from this group and what we do
Mhm.
for a second place, what they expect for services,
Yeah.
what do they want?
Right, and how can the building support
How
those
do you
services?
support that? I mean, I'm still getting really beat up on Saturday hours.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can understand why we don't have Saturday hours. So that's,
It's the most consistent and concrete feedback I hear from parents
Yeah.
with school-age children. For
yeah,
sure.
that's, so we
The
have
only
to
thing
do.
they can come up with too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's, I
Just
can-
more. That's all they want. Just more of.
from what it first started, the children's programs, I went to the first couple and there was maybe 3 or 4 people there, and now it's, 60
Oh,
people there. It's just
yeah.
packed. You got 100
Right.
people at your place.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
So,
So
I mean, we
great.
just can't stop it. We have to keep it
Participation
going.
is only increasing.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to make, our next budget, we'll be able to make the judgment knowing what the people want.
Mhm.
There might be something that we want more children's program and put more money towards it. So,
Mhm.
so what do you think, Susan?
Well, I got my questions answered.
Okay.
Particularly, and,
Mhm.
knowing that we need more people to get involved in this.
We really do.
Yeah.
I think people want to get involved, but just want to be asked.
Yeah.
And 6 o'clock was not, as you know, a great time to do any of this.
No.
Yeah.
And we had competition from a few other meetings that were going on at that point in time with the
Mhm.
CRA and
Yeah, there's,
Yeah, that was a heavy, that springtime with all the budget meetings, a lot was going on, so.
and there's a lot of other things going on in town right now, so.
Yeah. So just real quick, just looking at this, depending on his hourly rates, this is either 1 or 2 weeks worth of work on his part, if you add all the hours up. Doing public math, it could even be less than that, depending on what rates he charges. We've talked about having something extend out to March, and he's talking about a visionary workshop every other Friday for 2.5 weeks. And then there's another thing in here that says it's maybe less than $8,000 if completed early. What timeline is he thinking about, or what have you all discussed?
So we had initially discussed, when we started this conversation back in August, we had initially discussed starting in September and going through to the end of the calendar year. However, as I started to reach out to different people and look at, okay, if we're going to build a 10-person group, what are people's availability looking like? That timeline didn't end up working for us. So we're looking at, probably 2.5 months of these meetings with every other week with our 10-person group, and then interspersed with meeting with our different community groups.
So it sounds like it's $8,000 over 3 months, and so it
Right.
either starts in September, but if you want to end in March, it starts in December, actually January, because he's got 3 months worth of work and a timeline to do it in. So I mean, if that's what if we want to do
Right.
something different,
We're
we may need to go back and ask and say, hey, we want to change this. Is
Right.
this going to change your estimate?
Yes.
And then we just need to budget for that change of estimate.
Yes, we'll need to make that adjustment. As of right now, we've talked about flexibility of timelines, just as, like not immediately, but, a couple weeks into conversations with him about, what is the feasibility? What would this look like if we worked with you? The flexibility of he's encouraging of the flexibility of the timelines based on, we're going to run into the holiday season, so this may take longer, and we can come back and do a budget adjustment if necessary, but I feel confident that we will be able to produce something by February, March, a draft for the Board of Trustees. And again, if we go over this $8,000 mark, which I doubt we will,
That's fine.
come
I'm
back
just pointing out, this is a statement of work.
Yes.
Yeah, he says, I'll do this for X amount of money. There is an embedded number of hours in that.
Right.
And I don't know what his hours are and what his loaded hours are or unloaded. And so I just picked a round number. And so it's a week or two, maybe less if he charges more. He may likely charge more. And so we just want to make sure as we come up with what we think this is going to do, it matches what he's bidding, and then adjust from there.
Yes.
If we need to add more money, come back to the board.
Yes, we will do that at mid-year.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is appropriate for this particular discussion or not, but one of the things I'm finding out at the market is that people don't realize that the library is only funded, maintenance and salaries are only funded by the city, that we and the Library Foundation and whoever else does everything else. And I don't know if that needs to be brought out or article in the
That would be-
Tribune or whatever.
That would be an excellent thing to include as part of our strategic plan, where we talk about communications. Who are we? What are our support groups? Because this is a perpetual issue with the library. The Friends, the CPLF, and the city is people's lack of understanding of our unique situation. So we're already starting strategic planning. Thank you, Susan. How we talk about ourselves is really important.
That's important.
Yes,
Because,
it is.
As I say, the market, I say, well, we're selling books because, and the city only pays for maintenance and salaries. And people are very surprised at this. A lot of people that live here don't realize that.
They don't.
Yeah.
I've talked to people that are 25 years and do not know it.
Yeah.
They don't believe it, so
Yeah.
it's something we have to get out there. Very unique. I've talked to some of the people running from council and tried to explain it to them.
Again, a good item for consideration for our strategic planning. Thank you all. I think we need a
So we
vote.
have a motion
for a
accept-
budget adjustment.
A budget adjustment for the $8,000. Do we have to put in this, add to the motion that we will be coming back maybe later for adjustment on that, or just go to straight 8 right now?
Just straight 8 right now. That would be
Do we have a motion for the,
Okay, so this is, there's two things. So do we want to do two motions or one combined motion? Do two motions, I think.
okay?
I think 2 motions is
All right.
helpful.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the budget adjustment in the amount of $8,000 for the strategic planning services of the Visionary Strategic Consulting.
Do I have a second for that?
Second that motion.
Okay. Could I have a roll call?
Marie-Claire Gorham,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Phil Pardue,
Yes.
Mary Jo Williams,
Yes.
John Krischer.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
Okay, I make a motion to appoint Mary Jo to the, work with the library director and a consultant on the new strategic plan.
Do I have a
Second that motion.
Okay. Could we have a roll call for that, Leslie? Please?
Marie-Claire Gorham,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Phil Pardue,
Yes.
Mary Jo Williams,
Yes.
John Krischer.
Yes.
Approved, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Received a report from the Carmel Public Library Foundation on its recent events. Thanks, Alex.
Good morning, trustees. Good morning, everyone. So last year, before our fiscal year ended, we received a request from the library to increase the budget, and it was approved from CPLF for this year's budget. So we will be distributing $366,000 for the year for the library. Last week, we held our board retreat, our annual board retreat, and we were very fortunate to have our architect historian Elizabeth Cannell provide a really insightful presentation on the design of the Harrison Memorial Library building, on the architect Bernard Maybach, and also on its builder R.J. Murphy. And I just wanted to thank Ashley for providing the update and thank Mary Jo and John for attending. And then later we had a reception for Elizabeth Cannell for people to interact with her and ask questions. And Susan, we didn't have a chance to talk too much, but I saw that you attended, and I wanted to say thank you, and also to Phil too. Thank you so much. So tonight marks the launch of CPLF's annual programs, and our theme this year is A Sense of Place, Profiles from the Collection. We wanted to do this sort of on the heels of last year's architectural programs, but also to highlight the fact that we have an incredible local history room and archivist in Katie O'Connell, who with her help is going to be providing a lot of the artifacts on exhibit for each of these programs. And we have probably around 6 programs. I printed these out, and like the milk in my house, the ink is run out. So I apologize in advance. I'm going to give you a proper one. This is all online as well. But if you see anything that piques your interest, I'll get back to the mic.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Here you go.
the phased version.
Here's one more.
It is online. And
Easier
tonight
to read.
we're starting with the founding of Carmel with great-grandson Jack Galante and his to talk about his great-grandfather James Devendorf. And so that will be terrific, and we're really excited about that. And you may have been hearing some of the spots on NPR KZoo or seen this in the Pine Cone. And we really work with the library on our email lists and so forth to get the word out. So we're excited, and I think we're sold out for tonight as far as seating goes. Also, really exciting news. We have engaged our annual speaker this year, and I'm really happy to report it is Susan Orlean, and she wrote the library book.
Well, that's a good
And she also wrote The Orchid Thief, and it was turned into adaptation with Nicolas Cage and Meryl Streep. Mark your calendars for April 22nd. And I am still looking for the name of that edition, because for those of you who may be familiar with Susan Orlean, she's a really great writer. She's a journalist. She's worked for The New Yorker since 1992. And I mean, she's got a broad range of things that she can speak about. And for those of you who read the library book, I mean, it's really, she loves doing these journalistic deep dives into areas of interest. So that's all that I have for you right now. Are there any questions or anything? Or?
No, thank you for
Okay.
last Thursday.
Sure. Thank you
Yes,
so
thank
much.
you. It was so nice.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay.
All right, is there any other orders of business or anything future agenda that anybody has to talk about? To put on agenda?
I have future agenda items for the new year, but nothing that I made note of for October besides our usual things.
All right, thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.